Hello my hungry friends, welcome back to Polish Your Kitchen. Today we're making a traditional Polish dinner of meatballs in sauce. Pulpety we własnym sosie. Welcome back! Today we're making one of my favorite Polish dishes, Polish dinners. Pulpety, which is Polish meatballs. You can serve these with potatoes and a side salad, like a beet salad, that you can watch a video for right after this. So we're gonna make our dish from start to finish today, and I welcome you from our garden home again. We are separating ourselves from the evil coronavirus and cooking in our garden home kitchen. So we're gonna start by making the meatballs, and over here I have heating some broth. I have 4 cups of chicken broth. You can use either beef or vegetable, your preference. I also have sauteed an onion that is in my pan here, and this is going to go into our minced meat. I have a mixture of pork and beef, about 1 pound, I believe, but my recipe calls for 2 pounds, so just follow those instructions there. I just don't want to make a whole bunch of food for just the 3 of us. But you're gonna need some minced meat, and you can buy the mixture that is called, I believe, a meatloaf mix, right? What is it called?
I think so, meatloaf mix.
Mixed meatloaf mix, and I think it's pork, beef, and lamb, or I know there's a mixture of different meats. My favorite is pork and beef. I think the pork gives the beef enough fat to keep them nice and moist, and it kind of mixes the flavor of both. I've also done this with turkey meat, and I like to mix white and dark turkey meat. They work great like that also. So I have the meat in here, and I have 1 egg whole, raw, and then I'm going to add the onions. And my family always did this with our meatballs. Sauteed onions go into the raw mixture. I also add, a lot of the times, I add boiled carrot and some parsley or dill for color and for taste, but I'm out, so I'm not going to add any. And this just kind of shows you the versatility of Polish cooking, because you can add it, it's great, it's going to make things better. But if you don't have it, the world's not ending. So just kind of be creative, and especially now these days where they're telling us to stay home as much as possible. So we're just going to go with what we have. And then I'm going to add, I'm probably going to go half a teaspoon, maybe a full teaspoon of salt. No, probably not. Probably half. It's a little much. And I'm going to do probably 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Give these nice, bold flavor. Oof, this pepper is spicy. And I have 4 cloves of garlic here. Those are going to go in also for more flavor. If you can't have garlic or don't like garlic, you can skip this part too. Whoops. Oh, that happened. That's okay. We'll make it work. Put it all in there. Crushed garlic. I like lots of garlic, as you can see. And now we're just gonna give this a good mix. In my recipe, I also put to add either some stale bread or a dried up Kaiser roll that you can wet a little bit with water, and then ream out the water, and then add here. You can also add a little bit of breadcrumbs, but again, I don't have any, so I'm not putting any in. So the idea is to make these little meatballs. I like mine pretty little, about 2 inches in diameter. And they are gonna cook in their own sauce. I mean, they're gonna cook in the broth that we have, but they also are gonna flavor our broth and make, we call this sauce its own sauce. Sos własne, which translated means exactly that. It's its own sauce. So it's meatballs in its own sauce. W sosie własnym. And we're gonna thicken the sauce a little bit later with a mixture of water and flour. And that's gonna make our sauce nice and smooth. Add a little butter at the end too. So these are almost combined. My meat mixture seems a little moist from the egg, but I want the egg in there to kind of bind the 2 meats together and keep the meatballs together. But I can smell the garlic and onion in there. And we are going to be dropping our meatballs straight into our pot. And I have this broth heating up, and it was boiling already, so I turned it off. But once I start dropping the meatballs in there, I'm gonna start the water again and put it on low simmer so my meatballs can start cooking. That looks pretty good. And actually the moisture got in there now and doesn't look so wet anymore. So we're going to try to make these as uniform as possible so they cook evenly, and they're the same size. So I'm going to start this again and let this heat up. And this is boiling, so almost there. And in normal circumstances, I would also add some spices in here. I would add a bay leaf, a few peppercorns, and a few allspice. But when I made this broth at home, so it had all those spices in there already. But if you're using a store-bought brand, or you don't think it's flavorful enough, just add a few bay leaves, a few allspice, and a few peppercorns whole, and just drop them in there. And my broth started simmering, so that's exactly where we want it. And I like using a ice cream scoop, the little guy that makes little tiny balls, but again, I don't have it, so we're gonna make it work. But I'm using a spoon, and I'm gonna try to stay uniform. And I have a little thing of water here, and this water is gonna help me make the meat not stick to my hand. So every couple, I'm gonna go back in and wet my hands, but I just kind of squish them together so they stay together nicely, and then just roll in between my hands. And there goes a meatball. And I'm just dropping it in my water or in my broth that's simmering. Just be careful, don't touch the broth. And I have it set on low on purpose because I don't want my meatballs falling apart right away. So just slowly go in and make your meatballs, and then we'll continue. Okay, this is my last meatball, and I'm going to plop it in. And you see how the broth is just barely simmering. This is what we want. We don't want a super high roll. We want them to kind of hang out in this bubble bath, and we're gonna let them sit in there for 15 minutes. So then check back in and we'll finish the sauce. It's been 15 minutes. We're ready to finish our meatballs. They have been simmering in here, and they look nice and even. Check it out. And the sauce is nice and flavorful. It smells great. I'm gonna just taste the sauce a little bit, see if you need salt. Nope. And so You could take everything out and strain the spices, but I'm not gonna mess around with it because I don't want to. And to thicken this, we're gonna use water and flour mixture. You can also add a little bit of cream to this. Not sour cream, but normal cream, or half and half. You can do a couple tablespoons if you want. I normally just do water and flour. So I have about a cup of water, cold, and 3 tablespoons of flour. And I'm gonna stir this real quick so it incorporates. Take out the lumps as much as possible. And we're gonna pour that into our soup. And when we bring it up to boil again, it will thicken. And this only took 15 minutes, maybe 16 with mixing and making the balls. But this is really quick dinner. So by the time you make this, you can start your potatoes also before you make the sauce. And potatoes will come to boil. In Poland here, we like to eat our potatoes just cooked and not mashed, but you get those nice big pieces of potato. Sorry, my mouth's watering. Then you pour the creamy sauce or nice smooth sauce over the potatoes, and then you can kind of work with your fork to get the sauce in there, and it works. You don't have to do the extra calories in adding the butter to your potatoes, which I'm going to add butter to the sauce, so never mind. And I'm going to pour my mixture in here, and it makes a little bit more sauce because we just added a cup, and it will make our sauce smooth. So I'm going to leave this be, and I am going to cut up some dill to go in it. You don't have to do that if you don't like dill. You can do parsley, fresh parsley, or you can just skip this and not do any herbs. I like adding herbs because they make everything pretty, they make everything smell better, and bring some extra flavor to it. So I'm just gonna chop this real quick. No big deal, quick dinner, everyone's happy. And I will add probably 1.5 tablespoons of butter. And butter creates this layer of creaminess that we don't get otherwise. And butter is flavor, everybody knows that. And you can see it thickening a little bit more already, even though the liquid's not boiling yet, but it is nice and thick. My mouth's watering like crazy. So again, I will serve these with potatoes, and my favorite side salad for this particular dish, or any dish that kind of has this warm gravy with it, is the cold beet salad. And I posted a video for that also, and it will come up next after this if you'd like to watch it. I think it just balances the sauce, something to do with the hot sauce and the cold beets, and there's raw onion in it too, and it works for me. That's that classic Polish flavor, in my opinion. And I will also add dill at this time. Have that more flavor. And we are almost ready to eat. I see first bubbles coming up. Sounds done to me. Let's see how our meatballs look on the outside. On the inside. We know what they look like on the outside. I'm gonna pop one onto my plate. I'm so excited. And look how creamy the sauce is. Get some on top there. Cut this open. Look nice and cooked. And if you douse this in sauce and put it over some potatoes, your family will love you. I'm gonna give it a little taste. How do it taste? Because it's hot. It's perfect. Nothing to add, nothing to take away. Cook this for your family. Enjoy it together. Stay safe. Separate yourself from the world. Enjoy a meal together. Check out the new merch. Are you a kapusta eater? I am. See you next time. Smacznego!